If you want to stream on Twitch, upload videos to YouTube, or you just want to save videos of yourself whooping ass in your favorite game, you're going to need a capture card. With the PS4 having a standard resolution and frame rate of 1080p at 60Hz, it was pretty simple in order to find a capture card that worked. But with all the variables and all the configurations and different displays and so on and so forth with the PS5, it can be quite complicated when it comes to looking for the right capture card. So that is what we're going to look at in today's video. So hopefully by the time this video is over, you guys should be experts and know exactly what you need to buy for your setup. So without further ado, let's get right into it. And if you just want to get to a certain part within the video, all you have to do is just hover your mouse cursor over the timeline of this video and you can just skip ahead to any particular part of this video that you're trying to look at. So first, what I want to do is I want to go through the terminology associated with capture cards, and then after I'm done with that, then I'm going to go in and talk about which capture card is best depending on your situation. So real quick, let's look at what's the difference between pass-through and recording. If you have a 4K display that has 60 FPS refresh rate, but you only want to record gameplay at 1080p at 60 FPS, then you are basically looking for a capture card that has a pass-through rate of 4K 60 FPS while having a recording rate of 1080p at 60 FPS. So in this example, you'll be able to play at a higher resolution such as 4K while only needing to record 1080p 60 FPS. So the pass-through is 4K while the recording is 1080p. Hopefully that makes sense, but don't worry, we're gonna go more into that topic later in today's video. So there are two questions you need to ask yourself. What resolution and frame rate do you want to play in, and what are you using this capture card for? I know this might seem like very simple questions, but determining on how you answer this will determine whether you're gonna buy a cheap capture card like the Elgato HD60S or something much more expensive like the AverMedia 4K Gamer Duo. So what resolution do you want to play in? This is very important because let's say you have a monitor that has a max resolution of 1080p with a max frame rate of 60 FPS. In this scenario, there is no need for you to buy a 4K capture device since you're only going to be able to play in 1080p anyways. And vice versa, let's say you have a 4K monitor or a 4K TV that has 60 FPS of refresh rate. Well, if you buy a 1080p capture device, you are actually bottlenecking your display. So what's going to end up happening is that your display is only going to be able to max out at 1080p even though it is a 4K TV or 4K monitor. So buying a capture card that is able to pass through a resolution and frame rate to match your display is very, very important. Also, as a side note, I know there are a couple people out there that have a 4K TV that is capable of outputting 120 FPS. I know there's a few people out there, but unfortunately for you people, you are not able to use any of the capture devices that are currently on the market. Unfortunately, all the capture cards that are currently out on the market only are able to record up to HDMI 2.0 and not HDMI 2.1. And by HDMI 2.1, I am talking about displays that are able to output at 4K at 120 FPS. Also, what do you plan on using this capture card for? Do you plan on using it to upload videos to YouTube? Do you plan on using it to stream on Twitch? Do you plan on just saving videos? Who knows? If you're a streamer, you must know that on Twitch and on YouTube, the max amount of resolution and frame rate that you can output is 1080p at 60 FPS. So for example, if you have a 4K TV that is able to output at 4K at 60 FPS, then all you need to have is a capture device that is able to pass through that 4K signal, but only needs it to record in 1080p. You see what I'm talking about there? So you do not need something that can record in 4K because at the end of the day, Twitch can only support 1080p. If you're a YouTuber or a content creator and you like to post clips of your gameplay onto YouTube, then you must know that YouTube has a max resolution and a max frame rate of 4K at 60 FPS. So once again, same scenario. If you have a 4K TV and you want to get a capture card and you want to max out what YouTube is capable of doing, then maybe you want to get something that can have a pass-through of 4K 60 FPS while being able to record in 4K 60 FPS as well. But of course, I mean, you don't have to do this if you're a YouTuber. 1080p 60 FPS definitely does work as a recording device. So you do not need to get something that records in 4K, but I'm just saying if you want to maximize the output that YouTube is able to handle, then yes, recording in 4K 60 FPS is the way to go. So far, just to recap the point that we've talked about thus far, look at what display you're using and what resolution and frame rate that it is capable of outputting. So if you have a 4K TV or monitor, make sure you get a capture card that can pass through 4K. Also, if you want to use this capture card to stream to Twitch, make sure that it can record in 1080p 60 FPS. And if you want to post clips to YouTube, you can work with something that records in 1080p 60 FPS, but if you want to maximize the output that YouTube is able to offer, then yes, get something that records in 4K 60 FPS. And as an extra side note, which I guess this should be common sense, but whatever. If you're using a laptop, you need to make sure that you get an external capture device that transmits the signal via USB, while at the same time, if you have a desktop PC, you might be better off buying a PCIe slot capture card that plugs directly into the motherboard, assuming that you have an extra slot that's open. But if you do have a desktop PC, you have the luxury of choosing between a PCIe slot capture device and a external USB capture card. Generally speaking though, PCIe slot capture cards are better than external capture cards. So yeah, if you're choosing in between, I would recommend to go with one that plugs directly into your motherboard. So now that we outlined everything and hopefully you're a little bit more knowledgeable as from when we first started the video, hopefully, which capture card should you buy? Well, since everybody's scenario is a bit different, I ended up making an Excel spreadsheet, which is going to be linked in the description down below, which outlines each question you should be asking yourself, as well as if you prefer an external or an internal capture card, my choice for you, the price, the link, and then my top picks depending on if you're a YouTuber or if you are a streamer. So let's just create a quick example just to see which capture card XYZ person should be using. So let's say I want to play at 4K 60 FPS, but I only care about recording in 1080p 60 FPS. And since I have a desktop PC, I want to get an internal capture card, so I need something that uses a PCIe slot on my motherboard. In this scenario, I would recommend the AverMedia Live Gamer Duo or the Elgato 4K 60 Pro. The AverMedia card is $250, while the Elgato card is $220, but both will work in this scenario. But now that we're at the finish line, which card do I recommend? Well, there are two cards I recommend, one for YouTubers and content creators, and then another card for streamers. If you are a YouTuber or content creator, then my recommendation is to go for the AverMedia Live Gamer 4K, since you're going to be able to record in 4K, which will be quite beneficial since 4K at 60 FPS is the max resolution for YouTube uploads, and your audience will enjoy the higher resolution. Also, with this specific card from AverMedia, you are able to record at 1080p 120 FPS if you do choose to. Now, having a higher FPS being recorded is sort of gimmicky for the most part, but if you care to have like slow-mo clips without losing any like frames or having any extra blurriness, this could be an option for you creative content creators out there. On the flip side, if you like to stream on Twitch or YouTube or Facebook, then I highly recommend that you get the AverMedia Live Gamer Duo. Since it allows for dual video inputs, you could plug in your HDMI cable from your display to your capture card as well as a DSLR camera that has an HDMI output that can also be plugged in simultaneously. Doing this reduces the need of having two separate capture cards or using one capture card and then one cam link. You could just use this specific capture card and have both inputs go into one unit. So like I said earlier, I will be linking this spreadsheet in the description down below in case you want to have like a nice little cheat sheet and you're still just unsure of what you want. If you are a 1080p monitor user, do not worry, I also listed those options in the spreadsheet, so don't you worry, I also accounted for you guys as well. And if you're wondering which capture card I personally use, well, I use the AverMedia Live Gamer 4K since I am a content creator first and a streamer second. So I prefer something that records in 4K 60 FPS than just something that records in 1080p 60. My other option was the Elgato 4K 60 Pro, just so I could stay in the Elgato ecosystem, but I really wanted to try out the AverMedia ecosystem since I heard so many good things about it, and I gotta say I absolutely love it, and I haven't ran into any issues ever since, except for the fact that you cannot change the RGB lights on the front of it, which is such a bummer. Now I know capture cards can be quite confusing and a little bit challenging, especially since these next generation consoles add so much variability to your purchasing. So hopefully this video was able to break things down and make life a lot more simpler for you. Regardless though, if you have any questions, let me know in the comment section below and I will try my best to help you out. But for whatever reason, if I cannot get to your question, you guys should go head over to my Twitch page. I stream every Wednesday and I go in depth with anybody who has questions. I spend the time with you and we can go through it and give you recommendations and actually show you what I use in my setup. Plus, if you want to know why they call me Mathew the Best, I mean 8 p.m. twitch.tv is how you find out. But anyways guys, thank you so much for watching. My name is Mathew. Catch you on the next video. Peace out.